Assalamualaikum and good morning, good afternoon and good evening to whenever you're watching this video. This video is made specifically for Madam Roslina binti Ali or anyone who is watching. My name is Raja Muhammad Aziman Shah, and today we're going to talk about the challenge of ED adaptation because of inadequate charging infrastructure in Malaysia. Before we understand the EV landscape in Malaysia, let's look at the background of electric vehicle in Malaysia. So, first of all, we have to talk about the policy because that's how we're gonna know why these EVs are in place in the first place. So, the framework and ambition. Malaysia is transitioning towards electric mobility is structured under three core principles, and those core principles are Low Carbon Mobility Blueprint 2021 to 2023, National Energy Transition Roadmap NETR, and the new Industrial Master Plan NIMP 2030. So to summarize what these policies are about, they're pretty much to achieve a goal where electric vehicle needs to achieve 15% of total industry volume by 2030 and 80% by 2050. Now, of course, all of these are ambitious. We have to take a look at the reality of it. So the first one is the supply and demand gap. While the supply side policies thrive, consumer demand faces substantial bottlenecks, meaning that they face difficulties to actually use EV. So the NIMP 2030, it gives incentive to foreign direct investment. Domestic manufacturing of high value EVs therefore increase. However, people, including me, prefer internal combustion engines much more than the battery electric vehicles because of its convenience. When we talk about the Malaysia landscape, the public charging station is slower in growth compared to the gas station. Obviously, people are more prone to take ICE cars. Let's look at the technological aspects. What seems to be the problem here? So the first one is the charging speed dilemma. The slow alternating current, the AC, remains the dominant public infrastructure, which means consumers don't really want them. AC relies on onboard inverter to converter, which means that this is gonna result in higher hours of waiting time. And not to mention the grid instability issue. When they try to install high power chargers, it will actually create strain on local grid distribution. It sags the low voltage distribution. This can cause line losses and network instability. Use like underground cables or step-down transformers, which is costly. My friend's gonna explain the next part, so stay tuned. Compare what the government is planning to do then to the reality and the actual units of charger that is in Malaysia. For alternating current, the slow chargers, there's about 2,800, the ones that active, and the government wants 8,500. For direct current, the fast one is about 1,300 and the government aims for 1,500. Okay, pretty good. And the total amount of chargers in Malaysia as of Q1 of 2025 is 4,161 units active, but the goal is 10,000, so we're far off.
Now, I will explain about the key stakeholders that would involve in the adoption of electric vehicles EV in Malaysia, together with their roles and perspective. Let's begin with the first key stakeholders, which is the government agency. That includes the Ministry of Transport MOT and Ministry of Investment, Trade and Industry, and the Energy Commission, or we say Suruhanjaya Tenaga. These agencies are responsible for developing Malaysian EV ecosystem by formulating policies and regulation. They also need to provide tax incentive as well as investment support to ensure charging infrastructure meets safety standards, and working with the private sectors to expand the charging networks. From their perspective, EV adoption is an important strategy to achieve Malaysian net zero emission that will target by 2050 while strengthening the country's position as a regional e-mobility hub. And next, we have the key second stakeholders, which is the transport and fleet operator, such as Grab Malaysia, Prasarana Malaysia, and DHL Express. This organization manages transportation and logistics service while operating in a large vehicle fleet. Their role is to gradually transition from conventional vehicles to EV vehicles in order to reduce fuel costs while improving the operational efficiency. And they want to lower the carbon emission. From their perspective, EV adoption provides a long-term economic and environmental benefit for the transport industry. Next, we have the third key stakeholders, which is the consumer and general public. That includes the private EV owners and ride e-hailing users. Consumers play an important role because their job is to purchasing decision, increase the market, and encourage the expansion of EV infrastructure. From this perspective, electric vehicles are attractive because they can offer lower fuel costs and maintenance costs while also contributing to environmental sustainability. And for the fourth of the stakeholders is the community organization. For the example, council, local council, and resident. They represent community interests by providing feedback on EV infrastructure to plan and ensure that charging facilities meet local needs. From their perspective, EV deployment should be inclusive and provide fair access to charging infrastructures for both urban and rural communities. And lastly, we have the environmental group as our final stakeholders, which includes the WWF Malaysia and the Malaysian Nature Society. Their role is to promote sustainable transport, raise awareness of climate changes, and encourage the integration of renewable energy into EV infrastructure. From their perspective, EV adoption is essential for reducing greenhouse gas emission, and it should be supported by cleaner energy sources to achieve a more sustainable transport system. And that's all from the key stakeholders. Thank you.
Hi everyone, today I will present key stakeholders involved in the adoption of electric vehicles or EVs in Malaysia along with their positive and negative impacts. First, government agency such as Ministry of Transport MITI and Suruhanjaya Tenaga. The positive impacts that they support Malaysia's national EV policy and attract foreign direct investment, helping position Malaysia as a regional e-mobility hub. However, the negative impact is that limited fast charging infrastructure can put pressure on the electricity grid during peak hours. It may cause voltage fluctuation and increase the load on electrical substation. Next are transport operators, including Grab, Prasarana Malaysia and DHL Malaysia. The positive impact is that using EV fleets reduces carbon emission and lower operating costs because electricity is generally cheaper than fuel. It is also improve long-term operational efficiency. On the other hand, limited charging stations can cause range anxiety and vehicle downtime. This may affect business operation, reduce reliability, and even lower company revenue. The third stakeholder is consumer, which include private EV owners and ride-hailing users. The positive impact is that EV have a lower operating cost since they require less maintenance and electricity is cheaper than petrol. They also provide a quieter and more comfortable driving experience. However, the lack of public charging stations creates an inconvenience, especially for people living in apartments or high-rise buildings who do not have access to home charging facilities. The fourth stakeholder is environmental groups such as WWF Malaysia and Malaysia Nature Society. The positive impact is that greater EV adoption help reduce air pollution and life cycle carbon emission by around 50%. This contributes to cleaner air and support environmental sustainability. The negative impact is that EV adoption remains low. Malaysia progress towards decarbonization and net zero carbon target will slow down, leading to continued environmental pollution. Finally, community organization, including local council and resident association. The positive impact is that they support low carbon transportation and help achieve smart city goals by encouraging sustainable and climate resilient communities. However, unequal distribution of charging stations may create pressure on local authorities. It can also lead to disputes over parking spaces and use the public areas.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. To my lecturer, Madam Rosina. Today I will explain about the synthesis of idea. So, the first slide I will explain about challenge presented by technological innovation. The first major challenge is range anxiety. Public chargers are still incredibly scarce once you step outside major urban hubs. For instance, traveling long distance to undeserved states like Kelantan, Terengganu, or rural Pahang pose a high risk of battery depletion. This severely prevents consumer roads in Malaysia from buying EVs. The second barrier is the high upfront cost. Even though fuel and maintenance expenses are low in the long run, the initial purchase price remains prohibitively high. This keeps EVs significantly more expensive than standard cars that using petrol. To understand why this is happening, let's analyze the data from the charger landscape of November 2025. As my friends Roger mentioned in the early video, he said Malaysia has 4,161 charger units nationwide, but that was the number in quarter 2025. However, on November 2025, the number of EV chargers had increased to 5,340 units, but it was still insufficient, especially in rural roads. Moving on to the next slide, I will explain about opportunities presented by the technological innovation. First opportunities is the expansion of the EV charging network is opening up massive business opportunities. It attracts foreign and domestic investment, support local job creation, and contributes significantly to Malaysia's economic growth and sustainability. Furthermore, continuous improvement in EV technology are driving down manufacturing costs. This is crucial because it makes electric vehicles much more affordable and accessibility to a wider range of consumers, especially middle-income groups. The last slide I will explain about proposed solution. So the first solution is grid and infrastructure expansion. The Malaysian government need to cooperate with charging point operation and private landowners like shopping malls, hotels, and petrol stations. They must install fast chargers along rural corridors and undeserved states like Kelantan, Pahang, Terengganu, and Sabah. Furthermore, local councils can identify suitable and strategic locations to provide charging facilities based on community needs. A wider charging network can help reduce range anxiety and capture commercial profits. Second solution, enhance purchase affordability. The government needs to provide purchasing incentives such as tax exemptions, rebates, and low interest financing. Moreover, the government needs to invest directly in domestic battery innovation to lower production costs. Lower production costs can help manufacturers to offer affordable EV price, especially to middle-income groups, while supporting development of the Malaysia's EVs industry. At the same time, transport operators like Grab, Lalamove, and Prasarana Malaysia can reduce their operating costs by using EV. Environmental organizations can support lower carbon emissions, and consumers can enjoy long-term saving on fuel and vehicle maintenance.
In conclusion, Malaysia has set an ambitious goal of achieving 15% EV market share by 2030 and 18% by 2050 as part of its commitment to reaching net zero carbon emission by 2050. However, there are still several challenges that need to be addressed. By the end of 2025, Malaysia had only around 5,340 charging stations, which is still far below the national target of 10,000 stations. Other challenges include the limited number of fast charger, unequal charging station distribution between urban and rural areas, and the high purchase cost of electric vehicles. To overcome this challenge, several solutions can be implemented. First, the government and private sector should work together to expand the charging infrastructure across the country. Second, the national power grid should be upgraded to support the growing demand for EV charging. In addition, government incentives such as tax exemptions and rebates should continue to encourage more people to switch to electric vehicles. Finally, investing in local battery technology can help reduce the production costs and strengthen Malaysia's EV industry. If the solutions are successfully implemented, they will make EVs more affordable, reduce range anxiety, increase public confidence in electric vehicles, and accelerate Malaysia's transition towards a cleaner and more sustainable green economy. Thank you.